Hey there. What? Come on over here and talk to me. I don't bite. Challenging people not to kill their children. What's your name?
My name's Andrew.
Andrew?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Trey.
Nice to meet you, Trey. Why are you back here?
Not better access. The workers go in the back door, so I talk to them when they come in.
What do they say?
Nothing.
What do you say to them?
The workers. I tell them to think for themselves, use their minds, think about things like virtue.
What if they are thinking for themselves though?
They wouldn't be here if they were.
They could say the same thing about you.
How so?
Because you're here preaching the gospel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you thinking for yourself and they aren't?
Because I'm not killing humans.
That's
Do you think murder is good thinking?
I don't think it's murder. So.
Okay, let's see how you think about it. Why you say that?
Because I don't think it's a human being.
Okay, what is it?
It's a fetus.
What kind of fetus?
It's a human fetus.
So it's a human and it has being.
No.
I'm not thinking for myself, huh?
So, okay. So, do you believe in any restrictions at all?
What do you mean?
So, life of the mother.
Well, so like if you have a tubal pregnancy,
Yeah.
you want to try to save the baby all that you can,
Right.
but you want to save a life rather than lose two.
Sure. Okay. If it comes down and the doctor says, "Hey, we need to abort your baby," or there's a large chance that you're going to die, what do you say then?
Well, I think, like I said, that almost never happens. And if the child is old enough to live outside the womb, what would you say would be the right thing to do?
I don't know in that case.
We just take the baby alive. Why would you kill it?
I mean, wouldn't.
Why would you kill it?
Why would there be? Aren't there situations where the baby wouldn't be able to be born outside of the mother's
Okay,
womb?
well that's a different one. But if the baby is able to live outside the womb, you wouldn't kill it, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, because that's murder.
But I'm not the person making the choice, so I can't really say.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, people made choices for other humans many times in history, and it wasn't right. During the Holocaust for the Jews, during the slavery, they make choices for everybody, other people. We don't do that. People have agency. They have their own right to life. You don't make choices whether somebody else lives apart from their consent. You know?
So, okay, so in situations where the doctor is saying the mother will die if we have a child, you would be for an abortion?
Yes, but I want to be careful with that because what they usually do is they'll say...
Who's that?
People who make the laws. The opponents to life, I would say. They'll say, well, life of the mother, they'll say life, they'll expand it to life and health of the mother, and they'll say, well, her mental, that's what they do right now, laws right now. The health of the mother is in there with life, which means if the baby causes you any stress, which means abortion on demand, whatever reason you want.
Where can I read up on that?
You can look at the laws of any of them. It's the life of the, look at the Kansas legislature, the statute. Yeah, life and, it says life and health of the mother, and that health encompasses mental health.
In Kansas right now, that's how it is?
Yes. Now there is a limit though of like 21 or 22 weeks.
Okay.
But
and I think I would probably agree with the 21 or 22 week like threshold for.
Well, they can live outside the womb. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I think up until, I mean, this is my own personal opinion, up until that point that they're not really a human being.
So they're not. So what is that factor that makes them a human being?
Lived experience, in my opinion.
Okay. Does the 8-month-old in the womb have a lived experience?
Yeah. They have consciousness at that point. They're able
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They don't have self-consciousness. You don't get self-conscious till like 8 months or something like that.
Okay.
8 months outside the womb.
You're able to. I mean, I don't know like the scientific threshold. But
Well, let me ask you this: why do you think humanity has a right to life?
Why do I think humanity has a right to life? Because of previous perceived conscious experience. So
okay,
like,
but what? So what?
The same way why I wouldn't.
Doesn't a monkey have previous conscious experience?
Well, I value human beings more than I value monkeys.
Okay, so you're saying that your personal preference should be imposed upon everybody else.
I think you're saying that.
You're saying that you have this thing you said. You think that previous conscious experience warrants that something should be wrong.
Yeah.
But that's just your personal preference.
Right. So
So you're wanting to impose your preference upon everybody else.
I'm saying that you're trying to impose your preference on everybody else.
No, I'm not. I'm saying this is what God says. He's the one who makes the laws.
Right. Okay.
So you're just telling me, you as an arbitrary Joe or Andrew.
My brother's name Joe. So.
Okay. Imagine Joe. Can impose his views upon others just by sheer power.
Well, no, I'm not trying to impose anything on you.
Well, do you support laws though that hold to your view?
So do you.
Yes, but my view is an objective standard.
I don't think so.
How so?
Because I don't.
If God is the one who creates all things, is He not the definition of everything? Okay. Do you believe that everything in the universe? All right. Let me say this. There's two types of being in this universe. All right. We've got dependent being and independent being.
Okay.
Okay. Would you say that you are? It's called contingent or necessary being. Do you think that you are contingent or dependent in your being, or necessary or self-existent in your being?
I'm not sure.
Is there anything that you depend upon in order to live?
Is there anything I depend upon?
If you are deprived of food and water, or air,
yes.
Okay, so you are dependent. You are an effect, if you will, right? You were born at some time, and your body, you're going to die someday. I mean, that's just the way it works, the world. All right, so if there's such a thing as an effect, which is everything that changes is moved to a new state of being by something outside of itself that's already actualized, that brings it to that full state of being. For example, I get sunburn. I move from a state of lily white to beet red in the sun because the sun acted upon me and brought forth a new essence, not completely new being, it's called Aristotle called it accidental property. I have a new property about me that's called tanness or burntness or whatever you want to say. So I am dependent upon that. Now, the entire universe cannot be contingent or dependent because it would be dependent independently, and that would violate the law of identity. Are you familiar with laws of thought with Aristotle? The law of non-contradiction, the law of identity, and the law of excluded middle.
Vaguely.
Okay, so it would be irrational. It would be irrational to say the entire universe is made up of dependent beings, because then it would be dependent independently. But everything that we experience in this world is dependent. Would you say all matter is confined or restricted by space at the very fundamental level? Do you agree with that? So therefore, all matter is contingent.
Sure.
It's affected by space.
Sure.
All right. So the entire universe cannot be pure dependence, because that makes no sense. It'd be like an effect without a cause. Are you familiar with the principle of causality? Every effect must have a cause.
Yeah.
That's called an analytically true statement, which means that it's true by definition. Like, for example, 2 + 2 is 4 is analytically true. It's true by definition. A triangle has 3 sides. You have triangleness in the subject, and then you have three-sidedness in the predicate, and you're saying the same thing in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Every bachelor is an unmarried man. Those are all analytically true. They're not something that are adding anything to the subject of the sentence.
Meaning
like mathematics are analytically true.
So you're saying like everything that exists in the world has to be dependent on something, which is God.
Well, it must be dependent upon something
Having created it.
Yes. In other words, it can't be dependent independently. Now, it's possible to have independent being without dependent being, but we know that we're dependent. So therefore, rationally, it's logically necessary that there's something somewhere that has the attribute of self-existence. Otherwise, there would be no contingent or dependent existence.
I mean, but who's to say that that's a conscious thing that cares? Who's to say we aren't an accident?
Okay, well, there's this principle called the principle of proportionate causality, which says that something cannot cause in something else what it itself does not have the capacity for. An example I like to use is my kids. I got 6 kids.
Well, but you can inadvertently create something that you didn't intend, that you have the capacity to create, right?
Yes, but I cannot give the property of flying to my children.
Right.
That's what I mean.
But you can inadvertently give them the capacity to lie.
Yes, because I can lie.
Yeah.
That's why. I passed it. That's exactly, you make my point. That's what I'm saying. I cannot give something to my kids that I don't have the capacity for. I can't teletransport, to give my kids the ability to teletransport, because I don't have that ability. All right, so if...
Okay. I appreciate the conversation. I do have to
okay.
get to work.
All right, Andrew, wait a minute. Let me give you since you're not a Christian, this is a thing about the message of the Bible, and I'd like to shake your hand if I may. And I thank you for the kind conversation, and it's very good talking with you. All right, we'll see you.